Okay, I have it 7 o'clock. We'll now call this meeting to order. First up, closed session. Be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby enters into a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-3711, 1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. 1, Parks and Recreation Commission. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Into closed meeting. have a motion to come out of closed meeting?
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Chakowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Chakowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
At this time, could I ask our County Administrator, Mr. Meadows, to lead us in invocation and a pledge of allegiance?
Absolutely. If you're able, please rise for a moment of silence, and then I'll lead us in the pledge. Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, removal from the agenda. Do I have a motion to remove under old business the SUP for following a solar project? The applicant has withdrawn the application.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Chakowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you. All right, next up, presentation, recognitions, and awards. And I do believe we have Mr. Clark, Virginia Department of Transportation. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Few little updates. Most have been on maintenance items that we've been working on the last month. As the weather's gotten better, we did have one snow-related event. As has been this winter, didn't turn out to be a whole lot, but we have had to respond and to several close calls, and we've had ice and stuff like that. But hopefully, we're out of that from now. And now we're working on getting ready for paving season. In fact, it's already begun. We're doing a lot of pipe replacement ahead of paving schedules, ditching ahead of paving schedules. They've already done High Top Road. I believe they're working on Centennial right now. I don't have the full list with me. I'll send an email that's got the full list on there. We're doing mostly all asphalt plant mix, very little, if any, at all, surface treatment and slurry this year. We're trying to concentrate mostly on the plant mixed roads and getting them overlaid. I won't go into the many roads, and I've got a huge list here of just where we've done them gravel roads, machining and hauling stone, but that's kind of typical of this year as we're coming out of winter to try to get those back in shape. Did a little bit of brush cutting on 5 Points Road. I won't get into a lot of the patching. There's been quite a bit of patching as this is the season for that kind of thing. And we've been finishing up the Taylor Hollow low water structure. That is done now. They're out of there. It looks huge. When you pace it off, it's really only about 30 feet wide. But it just looks like you could land a plane there. But it's much better than it was. I think that will help a lot. There won't be as many high water events where that's overtopped as there was before. And now we'll work on designing the other part. That's in your 6-year plan, designing the rest of the, getting that part paved. The other construction part from your 6-year plan that's coming this year is Craig Mountain Road. There's a section in the middle that we haven't done. It's in the 6-year plan. I believe you have it on further on the agenda to get the rural rustic designation on that, and that's what we do on all our unpaved roads, so we that design standard. But if you recall, we did a section, about a half a mile section further down, where there was a dust issue with a citizen who was having pretty severe issues with that. We overlaid that to alleviate the dust, but it left a section in the center, which is only about 0.3 of a mile. And so it should be a very easy project. We'll do it with VDOT crews, and that'll get done this summer, and that'll be the kind of a minor project for this summer. I also know, we've had our secondary road 6-year plan hearing, and we're looking at a time when we can all go review some of the projects, and we'll talk more about that later. But a 6-year plan will have to be decided on a resolution within a couple months. That's it. That's all I have. Like I said, some patching and pipe replacement, and getting ready for the paving schedule, and we're working on getting the 6-year plan ready for approval.
Okay, very good. We'll go around the room to see if anyone has questions or comments. We'll start off with Supervisor Vichikowski.
Do you already have a working list of the pothole patching routes that you're going to be taking?
Like I said, they're working on trying to get the just some patching ahead of the paving schedule right now. And I don't have that paving schedule. I've got the list of what we accomplished so far. But if there's any specific spot, I'll go ahead and I can take those spots. I know we've got a lot this year.
There's one of them on Allegheny Springs Road that's right there at the bridge that goes over the river. Used to be the old trading post. I don't know if you remember that, but probably it's in between the two Flick Drive.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that bridge there. Actually, it's right at one of them. Yeah, but it's like right at the head wall. So, and it seems to be growing.
Okay.
So that might be a good one to get. Other than that, the about 1/10 or 2/10 of a mile off of 460 on Allegheny Springs, it looks like the northbound lane is kind of deteriorating in one of the curves there. It's just seems to be crumbling apart, and I've noticed a lot of folks will kind of veer over halfway across the center line to avoid it. So it's
At about
getting rougher.
what point? You said a number of like half mile. How much was it?
It about 2/10 of a mile.
2/10, okay.
Yeah, maybe 1/10 of a mile from. I got to start remembering roads. Let's just go with 2/10 from 460.
Okay.
Yeah, going south, but it's at the northbound lane. And then there's a whole bunch on Mount Pleasant too in the paved section that are.
I'm looking. I thought I remember seeing we've done some pipe replacement on Mount Pleasant. We haven't done any patching.
Oh,
Yeah.
the gravel section looks really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because that really took a beating that last big storm we had.
Yeah.
But no, this is in the paved section. It's in a typical section that apparently gets a lot of potholes.
Yeah.
Must be something going on underground. But that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor King.
Yeah, I appreciate you getting back with this email on Pack Road.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we can look at that.
Could you send somebody out to look at Old Rough Road? See if we
Old Rough Road. Yeah. Just for grading and stuff. Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor DeMott.
I don't have anything for you tonight, but thank you for being here.
You remind me some of the that bridge on Walton Road. Which I don't think there's any graffiti there right now, but that bridge is due for replacement. It may not be for a year or two. I just wanted to let the board know, and that will probably require closing that road for just a brief amount of time. Obviously, we'll keep you all updated when that happens. But
There was another closure recently for a short period of time too on that. But yeah, I think the graffiti artist may have given up the ghost on that.
Yeah.
Maybe they fell out of love. Who knows? Thank you.
you're welcome.
Supervisor Bone.
I went down Taylor Hollow. The bridge did look really good, but I didn't see it completely. They were still working on it. It was after a month ago. So looks great. Thank you. Still would love the rocks on the side of the road going down, if possible, like you did on the one
Right.
area. I'm not quite sure where Craig Mountain Road is. Is it Craig Creek?
It's not Craig Creek Road. Oh, that reminds me of something else we're going to do. Craig Mountain Road is off of Route 615, south of Christiansburg. So if you're going down there, kind of just before you get to the green boxes there on 615, you take a left, you go way out.
Craig Creek, I believe.
Near Pandapis Pond, crossing Pandapis
Yeah.
Pond.
Yeah. Isn't there a gap between it and Roanoke County's road that connects?
I think we have that paved all the way through now.
Okay.
I know we did, but we're working on getting it won't be huge, but we're working on getting a turn lane there on Route 460.
Nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, we've got several, anecdotal type things where people are, you got to slow down to turn, and there are people right behind you coming fast. So we're going to try to get what we can as far as a turn lane, just something to get off real quick at Craig Creek Road.
Nellie's Cave, when it rains or snows, at the top before Forest View Lane, that whole top, there's probably at least 4 different rivers, depending on the volume. So ditching
Yeah.
around there would be
and
great.
Cutting shoulder will help a lot.
Yeah,
there, too,
something
yeah.
like that. As well as Harding Road, not far from Mill Point Road. I mean, there's sort of like in the midsection of Harding Road, all of a sudden there's no ditches. It's kind of just flat on the upside. So, and then Mill Point Road. I know that Mr. Norris talked with somebody, and unfortunately he passed away in the last year. So his wife reached out to me and asked what's the status on that. So that's their property's down from the road, so all the drainage
Yeah.
goes into their yard.
I'll find out about that.
That'd be great.
I know we've looked at it, and there's a couple different ones in there. I'm not sure if this is the same one, so I won't speak to it right yet, but some of the drainage does not come from the road. It comes from another property on the other side, and the subdivision either wasn't adequately designed at the beginning for drainage, but that may not be the case in this one. I may be mistaken, so I'll take a look.
That's probably some of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes from the very top.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Supervisor Shepherd.
Couple things. I've been told, and I see the culverts, new culverts going in under Longshop Road and Mount Zion, and I assume over to Brooksfield it's going to be paved.
Again, I don't know how much of that is. I know we're doing a lot of pipe work. We're going to be concentrating on pipe work over the next probably 6 months on a lot of things. We're getting a little bit more maintenance money for some brush cutting and some piping and ditching and things like that. That may be in advance of that. We probably don't have about 10 miles, if that, of overlay this year. I don't have all those routes right now. I'll send them to you. I know we're doing Centennial right now, but I don't know if Longshop and Mount Zion and Brooksfield are on the list as well.
What I was going to say is Longshop Road is in fairly good shape. I mean, I live at the end of that straightaway at one end, and there's cars go by my house at 70 mile an hour. Now, if you go up Glade Road, I guarantee you there ain't nobody doing 70 on that road.
Yeah.
It is all 2 pieces. It's the one that needs to be paved, really. But anyway, whatever we get, I guess we get. And on that same note, while you're doing the culverts, is there any way we could get like a catch basin with a grate on top right there at Mount Zion and Brooksfield and Glade? That's a deep hole where that culvert goes under. It actually goes under Mount Zion, and it stops up inevitably every time it rains, and it's a pool of water, and you can't see the hole, and everybody's scared to go around there, afraid they're going to fall in it.
Yeah.
But if it was a grate, at least they'd have something to drive on, even if they couldn't see it.
I'll take
you know?
yeah, I'll see what. Yeah.
I mean, I even thought about, well, it's not deep enough, but even if you set a deep one and then fill it with concrete up to your invert, but anything there would help a lot. And I've also had some requests to say, or some questions, I guess, why or when will they ever get to paving or doing something to a Norris Run Road? I haven't been over it in a while, but it's one of those. It's, I guess, just tar and gravel probably, but
Yeah, well, Norris Run, parts of it are. A lot of it is, that was one of the roads that was on the 6-year plan. If I haven't worked for VDOT for so long, I wouldn't have remembered it, but it just so happens I've been here a long time. And that was one that was cut in the early 90s. It was a long project. It was all the way from like McCoy. All those little bridges on Norris Run were on the schedule. I know some of it is paved, and that may be the part you're talking about. It is just a tar and gravel kind of thing. It may just be
Right.
patching on the part
Right.
near Keister's Branch, I guess. Not Keister's Branch.
Lick Run. And,
Lick Run, yeah.
And also on that note, before I quit, I've asked my board members to support me in getting Bobcat Lane on that 6-year plan too. So hopefully I can get that to happen.
Yeah, I took a look at it after the 6-year plan. There's, quite a few houses and mailboxes. I think it's about 4/10 of a mile long.
Right. Yeah. That's all.
It'd be a good candidate. It's not like, it's fairly straight and fairly wide.
Yeah, it's been, I think it was like wide and been upgraded in the last 20 years probably. Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Chair Biggs.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for being here.
Mr. Clark, I don't have any questions either, although you mentioned that as paving begins in work zone areas, we do want to remind everyone that April is Work Zone Awareness Month, and to make sure that we're slowing down in the work zones for our VDOT workers.
I
and
appreciate you
crews.
mentioning that.
Absolutely. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention and slowing down. As the warm weather, all the construction and the asphalt can be out there for paving. We want to make sure we're
Yep.
watching out for that.
Absolutely. It is work. Yeah, Work Zone Awareness Week is coming up. I know it's frustrating to be stuck in traffic in a work zone, and I'm not immune from that. But the work's got to get done. It can't all be done between 2 and 4 in the morning. So we have to deal with it. But those guys out there, and if you may have heard on the news, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, there's a pretty terrible accident in Maryland on 495 where a car entered into the work zone and killed 6 people.
So everybody have patience and slow down and pay attention. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for you and your service for VDOT.
Thank you all very
Appreciate
much.
you. Public hearings. We have a public hearing tonight, a request for Derek Litton to rezone property from residential to agricultural. Ms. Hopkins, hello. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. So as you stated, this is a rezoning of 1.228 acres from residential R1 to agriculture A1. It is located off of Spalding Road, so that's in the western portion of the county. You can see this is Radford Road here, and this is Walton Road. Spalding comes off of that. This is an aerial view of the property. It is currently a vacant lot. And it was part of a much larger rezoning that was done apparently years and years ago, because we have not been able to find the exact file on it. It was zoned to R1. There are at least 2 other double wides that are located on these properties, but prior to the 99 ordinance, we did allow manufactured homes in R1. So it was developed prior to the latest ordinance update. So as I stated, the property is currently vacant. It's located approximately 0.2 miles east of Walton Road. It has been previously rezoned to R1. Clayton Homes actually contacted us to begin permitting, and that's when we discovered it was in an R1 zoning district, which does not allow multi-sectional or manufactured homes. So we contacted the applicant and the owner and discussed some options. The first option was to purchase a modular instead of a double wide. Most double wides can be made into modulars, or to rezone the property to A1 since it did have some adjoining agricultural property. The applicant had already purchased the dwelling. It was actually a lot model, so the conversion to a modular was not possible. It does meet the minimum lot size for the A1 zoning district, and they can meet the setbacks, so they did decide to move forward with the rezoning. This is their proposed site plan. You can see kind of central towards the rear of the lot. They have plenty of room to meet their setbacks. And then this is the site as seen from Spalding Road. And then this is looking both to the left and right, standing in the entrance down Spalding Road. So the applicant does propose a driveway connection. VDOT has reviewed that and took no exception to the rezoning or the proposal. The lot is not currently served by public water and sewer, so they will have to have a private well and septic approved. It should be noted that now to rezone to R1, we do require public water and sewer for that zoning district. So going to A1 is more in compliance with the utilities that we have available. It is not located in a FEMA designated flood zone. Full review of erosion and sediment control will be done at time of permitting, and the impact to the school will be minimal as it could be built with a residential dwelling currently. So the comprehensive plan, it does line an area designated as rural in the comprehensive plan. We pulled out the planning and land use section that applied to this. The preferred uses are rural residential development and agricultural, so it does conform to that. It is consistent with the comp plan and the existing development patterns found within the area. There is limited transportation expected, no safety impacts, and if it's approved, we would also take it through the permitting to make sure the well and septic were in place and they had the proper permits for that. VDOT land use permit would be required, and that's prior to the final building permit being issued. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request on a 9-0 vote. There were no speakers at that public hearing. The adjoining owners have been notified. We have placed the public hearing sign on the property and ran legal ads. As of this date, staff still has not received any inquiries regarding the rezoning request. There may be those here to speak. And with that, I will take any questions. It was a short one tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. We'll go around the room, see if supervisors have questions or comments, starting off with Supervisor King.
No questions. Thank you.
Supervisor DeMott?
I apologize because you might not know the answer to this question.
I will try.
How much does it cost to apply for a rezoning?
To apply for a rezoning, for this one, because it was a down zoning to A1, I want to say it was probably around $360, but then they have to pay the advertising fees for the paper too. So you're talking at least another $400.
And then the time spent in the process?
We are about 60 days in.
I only ask that not because anything wrong has occurred. It's also taken staff time, planning commission time. This seems, it seems like a lot, in my opinion. And the only reason I bring it up is maybe it's an opportunity to look at the various codes that could prevent other people from going through this, putting a house on their property.
Absolutely. And that is one of the things we are hoping to do, a zoning ordinance rewrite within the next year, and we've
Awesome.
Already added something like this to the list.
Great. I'm super happy to
yes.
hear that. Thank you very much. I have no other questions. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Bone?
To your memory, have any requests like this ever been rejected?
Not to my knowledge, no.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Shepherd?
No questions. Thank you.
Supervisor Fidzikowski?
No questions, but this gave you a break from some of the previous ones you've brought to us. So
It did, but it was a very brief break.
thank you. Yeah, no questions.
Vice Chair Biggs?
No questions. It seems very straightforward. Thank you.
Hopkins, no questions from me either, although I will say, good questions, Supervisor DeMott. That's great thinking, to be able to put the cost and the time to put something on your own property there, especially if it's a downgrade. It's
Yes.
from a lesser. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we will open up the public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this issue of the rezoning, but if you'd like to come forward, you have 4 minutes to address the board. You'll need to start by stating your name and your address. Seeing no one come forward, I will close this public hearing. Public address. Board of Supervisors allows citizens to present comments on issues deserving of our attention during public address. Each speaker has 4 minutes, whether speaking as an individual or a representative. All comments must be directed to the chair or other supervisors from the speaker's lectern at the front of the room. Speakers may leave any written statements or comments to the supervisors with the board clerk. Speakers will be judged out of order should the speaker engage in any personal attacks, use profanity or abusive language, or debate with the audience and not address the supervisors. We did have a sign-up sheet. I'll call the names on the sign-up sheet. Then if anyone would like to come forward, you'll have 4 minutes to state your name and address. The first one up is Mikey King.
My name's Mikey King, live in Reiner. I just wanted to take time to thank y'all. We had a awards banquet out at Reiner Fire Department, and y'all were so graciously give me a letter of commendation, or I'm not sure what you call it, but I just want to take time, thank each and every one of you for doing that. That meant something to all of us at the fire department, and we want to thank y'all for all your support and everything throughout the years.
Thank you. Next up, I have Wayman Pack.
Good evening. My name is Wayman Pack. I live in Reiner. Mr. Todd King is my supervisor. Give you a little bit of background. I've lived in this county all my life. I was a member of the first Citizens Police Academy held by Doug Mars in this county. But that was a long time ago, and now I'm on a fixed income. So what I have to talk about is about the proposed budget that is coming up. And one of the things that comes to my attention is this proposal for a CRO, a Community Resource Officer. Now, I've always been able to contact the Sheriff's Department and get any answers I needed. My question is, first question is, who would this person report to? If they are a liaison from the Sheriff's Department to the community, every deputy is already serving that purpose. The second thing is, we're looking at $182,000 for this position. It's a lot of money for something that's already being done by very qualified people. Second thing I want to speak to is a proposal to move toward a reassessment cycle of every 2 years instead of every 4, as stated by Virginia law. Of course, Virginia law does allow the provision to increase, to be more, do it more often. That's true. My question is twofold. Why do we want to do it every 2 years? And if we're looking at people to put people in the Montgomery County government to do this, what are they going to do in the off years? So with that being said, I ask for your consideration on these items as we go into the budget process and look at these items and see, especially for people like us on fixed income, if they're really necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That completes the sign-up list, but if any citizen would like to come forward, you'll state your name and address, and you'll have 4 minutes to address the board.
Good evening, Board. Bob Beard, I live here in Christiansburg. Just the last session, I was speaking, and I mentioned some things about at the recent school board meeting, how certain members of the school board said they brought Dr. Bregan in just for the sole purpose of bringing in the union. And then here at this meeting, he said that was misinformation. All we're doing is just saying what the school board members were telling us, that they brought Dr. Bregan just for that sole purpose. And 90 days later, now we have collective bargaining. Just something to think about, guys. And next, we're talking about birds of a feather. When we have a group, called the VA president, he's part of a group, the former public education president, the former secretary of ed, Senator Tim Kaine's wife, the VP of, who is also the vice president of VEA. What do they have in common? I bet if they had a picture, that you would see a picture of someone being real daggone liberal. So you got the president, James Fetterman, Holly Hazard, Pam Northam, Ann Holton, Pam Northam, all creating a PAC called We the People, all for the sole purpose of recruiting school board members. So what kind of people do you think they're going to recruit, finance, support as a school board member? Okay, you think they're going to be union driven? And what's also is how's this going to affect us locally? First, we need to talk to Mary Biggs. She is also on that board, guys. So now we have a superintendent brought in here for the sole purpose of collective bargaining. Now we have Mary Biggs on the same board trying to bring in more liberal school board members. I just don't know if that's really what's best for our community, what's best for our kids. You have a union president, a member of, and also on our school board, we already have a union president. We already have a member of the school board who is endorsed by the MCA, in the New River Uniserve Union. Guys, it's up to you guys. I think, Sherry, I think you should ask Mary to resign, because this is enough. You can't have liberal individuals who's on this board trying to help try to affect change on the other boards. That doesn't sound like it's good politics to me. So that's my thoughts for tonight.
Would anyone else like to come forward to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Ellen Ryan, and we were all geared up to come and listen to the vote tonight for the solar project. And then we were kind of happily met with the news that they decided to rescind it and not have the vote. But our little group in Elliston and Shawsville wanted me to just tell you how much we appreciate you listening to us, and mainly our concerns about the comprehensive plan. And we're so excited about listening to ideas you have, and we hope you'll listen to some ideas we have. One of the things that set us off in the beginning of this process was the fact that the community was not involved. And ironically, I heard Bree tonight say that they put in the news messenger and they put a little sign on the property. And you may probably have seen the huge headline in the news messenger that said, "You approved the solar project." And I think one of the comments made at that time before this came out was that really the news messenger is sadly maybe not the best way of communicating right now. And Pivot used the fact that they had reached out to the community, and this was just not exactly how it was. If we hadn't just happened to show up at the Planning Commission, it would have been approved, and we would have used precious farmland and historic place as our first project. So anyway, I'm so appreciative of you listening and being available to hear our concerns. So huge thanks, and I hope we'll meet again. Thanks again.
Would anyone else like to come forward to address the board?
Good evening, board members. I am Joanne Price, Blacksburg. I just have something that I want the board to think about. looking over into the future. When decisions are made in the present moment, they do have consequences that come to pass down the road. The decision to approve the resolution for collective bargaining by the school board does have implications that we don't even know about. And each one of the school board members, including Dr. Bragan, admitted that we don't really know how this is going to pan out. We don't really know what the costs are going to be, administratively and otherwise. But there is one concern because there is a convergence between the budget and property taxes and the impact on the individual taxpayer. The average house, according to Kiplinger, the price of that house, 25% of that cost is driven by regulations. So on a $400,000 home, $100,000 that I would pay or you would pay for that house is regulations. And so only $300,000 of that home is really asset value. So this does impact us going down the road. So when we start to look at collective bargaining, we start to look at tax increases, they are going to come, they have to come. We need to also look at our tax structure and how we tax the population, because we do have people on fixed incomes, and that is going to be a heavy burden on the people. So I just wanted you to start looking into that, because that's a serious concern. Thanks.
Would anyone else like to come forward? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public address. Addendum.
Madam Chair and board members, we do have an addendum this evening. This is for an appropriation for fire suppression system improvements at Eastern Montgomery Elementary School. Okay. And I can share more when we get to that item later in the agenda, should the board approve this as an addendum.
All right, so let me see if we have a, so do I have a motion, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors that the following addendum is added to the agenda under new business as follows: Montgomery County Public Schools appropriate $100,000 for fire suppression system improvements at Eastern Montgomery Elementary Schools.
Or that,
It would be the county.
do we want to yay for,
This is just
to
to add it.
discuss it?
No, this is just to add it to
Oh,
the
okay.
agenda.
Add it onto the agenda.
But
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm
I
sorry.
thought the county was
It's-
going
it-
to.
that- it- I think she just missed
I'm
that.
sorry, let me
Yeah.
reread that. Did I didn't say public
Yes,
schools? All right,
yeah,
let's say
yeah.
Montgomery County Public Schools appropriates $100,000 for fire suppression system improvements
No,
at Eastern.
it's the county appropriating the $100,000 to the schools.
Right, for Eastern Montgomery.
Yeah, the way the addendum is worded is,
Addendum is, yes.
Yeah.
That should read, if I'm not mistaken, it should read up to 100,000.
Yeah.
Can someone read it?
let me try to help out. This is an item that we discussed with the Public Service Authority Board last Monday night. And with a subsequent discussion with the schools, there was a little bit of confusion, which is why it wasn't added to the agenda last week when the agenda was published. However, I had an opportunity to talk to the superintendent today, who is driving his way back from New Jersey as we speak. He should be here hopefully in time for this item. And the school system would like to move forward with the county assisting with getting this issue at Eastern Montgomery Eastern Montgomery Elementary School addressed in the manner that we talked about with the PSA board last Monday night. And it is up to $100,000. I think we made the appropriation for $100,000 so that we wouldn't have to come back to the board if it's less than that. But it would only be whatever the amount would be.
And Montgomery County's making the appropriation.
Yes, the school system is looking at putting up, they currently have approximately $128,000 that could be allocated for the project. They may have more, but they've identified 128. The total estimate for the project, and again, this is an estimate, was between 150 at a max 200. So in the discussion, it was less. If they're coming up with the 128, we'll come up with up to 100 to get this project completed.
And this is just to add it on the agenda
Yes, ma'am.
tonight for us to discuss, and by that time, Dr. Bragan will be here,
Here any
hopefully.
minute.
So do I have
Yeah.
a motion and a second
To add it to the
to
agenda.
add it to the agenda? Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Richakowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you, so it's added. Then we have items of consent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Richakowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right. Now we're on to new business.
Oh, yeah, we took old business off. That's correct.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, first up, resolution to refer to the Planning Commission to begin to explore and seek public comment on large solar energy projects.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is something that I think we desperately need, and I think there's good news also. Myself, Bree, and Mr. St. Clair was also at a presentation, I guess it would be called, up in Botetourt, and there was a representative there from the solar industry, one from the state, a lot of good speakers, and two examples of counties that have overcome this, and it wasn't that difficult. So that's the good news. Franklin County spoke, did an excellent job in Brunswick County. So I think this is something that won't be as hard to accomplish as I originally thought, and I think a lot of other folks did too, because there's so much out there already from other counties and jurisdictions that have already dealt with this, and they've kind of ironed out a lot of the big issues. So all we have to do is customize it to fit our county, and I think that's a very doable thing. So I'm really looking forward to getting started on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we know that with the increased demand and need for renewable energy projects, this is a step moving forward, since we did not have anything in our comprehensive plan that specifically addressed large projects such that was with the Fotheringay, and so other than it being by right or with an SUP. So I think this will be a great opportunity for this resolution to have the community input, and to move forward on using the best resources for our land use and for our resources in general.
Can I say
Yes,
something?
certainly.
I'd also like to encourage the Planning Commission to not just take input from the community, but have community members be part of the process of pulling this all together. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Richakowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Very good. All right. Next up, rezoning. Derek M. Litton.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Richakowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Good. All right. Next, resolution, National Child Abuse Prevention Month for the month of April.
So
So
moved.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Richakowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Good. Next, National, oh, did I get it? Missed it? Disappeared on me. National County Government Month. Do I have a resolution?
So
I'm sorry,
moved.
do I have a motion for the resolution?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Very good. Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
National Distracted Driving Awareness Month recognition.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I think it's really important, and I hope that it gets some PR coverage because, you know, living in Blacksburg, you see a lot of distracted driving, and not to say that we all haven't at one time or another been guilty of it, because that includes eating in your car, but it really, the texting is what I see a lot of, and this as an aside, I wish they also had a distracted pedestrian month because that's creating problems too because, you know, the students are walking and not looking and they've got the earbuds in. So I think we're sort of at a critical time for accidents. So I was really glad to see this on here. And I know Sherry knows a lot about this.
Yes, ma'am. And there is also a pedestrian safety awareness month as well, so we could add that when that's time too. So absolutely, thank you for bringing that up, Vice Chair Biggs, because distracted driving is something that we all can prevent by making sure we're paying attention, putting the phone down, no texting. So just drive, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Former State Trooper Fidzikowski right there, just
That's
drive.
right.
That's correct. All right.
Drive to stay alive.
That's right.
I would like to say one thing. I know there's laws on the books against it. I just wish they were more enforced.
Yeah.
As a bus driver and you're being more elevated to be able to see into cars, I bet you 90% of the people going down the road today has a phone in their hand.
Yeah.
So it's just, it needs to be something dealt with.
Absolutely. So everyone can do their part by making sure they're paying attention and drive safely. Madam Clerk, you'll please call the roll?
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Hi.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right. National Library Week, April 23rd through the 29th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? We're very proud of our libraries. It is a community hub, one-stop, unlimited possibilities. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King? Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 9th through the 15th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Like to thank all of our 911 dispatchers. They do a fabulous job. We do appreciate them. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
National Therapy Animal Day, April 30th.
So moved.
recognition.
Second.
I thought someone was going to bring us a dog.
Yeah, I know.
I should have
What
brought my
happened?
cat.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Right, and Dr. Bragan just came in the nick of time. Next up, the appropriation for up to $100,000 to school capital fund.
And board members, as I mentioned when we added this to the agenda this evening, this is a result of a discussion with a meeting that was held 2 weeks ago, Friday, I believe. As most folks are aware, there's been an ongoing issue with the fire suppression system in Eastern Montgomery Elementary School. It is being addressed through fire watchers, and the building is safe during the day when students are there. However, we need to address an adjustment to the sprinkler system that is likely going to require the installation of a pump. And as a result of that meeting and a desire, I think, by the schools and the county to get this moving forward, we agreed that the funding could be provided to address this. As I mentioned, this was mentioned at the PSA meeting Monday night, and then there was a conversation on Wednesday that created a little bit of confusion as to whether the schools were ready to move forward. I had an opportunity to talk to Dr. Bragan earlier today, and like I said to you earlier, he made a point to come right straight in from his trip back to New Jersey this weekend to be here to answer any questions or concerns, but he and the school's administration are very committed to getting this addressed as soon as possible, and that's why we requested that it be put back on the agenda this evening.
So do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Now we can open up discussion if there's any.
I'd like to say just one thing. I do appreciate PSA staff and the school side. We've had several meetings, and Chuck and his staff has done several things to keep this moving forward. And I just want to recognize them for all their hard work.
Yes, I'm very glad to see this move forward. And just for clarification, this is up to $100,000, and it is for an outside pump, and to address just that need. And the school already has $128,000 set aside, and this isn't just in case the estimates come in a little bit higher for that, because we do need to move forward. This board learned of this issue last August at our joint school board and board meeting. And since that time, enable for the school to stay open, they've had to have fire watchers there. But this is just for this $100,000, up to $100,000 is for us, for the outside pump. And that is going to
Get the pressure in the system up so that the fire marshal, there's an issue with pressurization in the system itself, and there was some question about whether, we spent a lot of time looking at where that issue was, but the county's public service authority has the pressure set where it should be down at the line, and after meeting with engineers, they've said that there continues to be some concern inside, so the best way to address that is with a pump system to supplement that. The good thing about a pump system as well is if there are any changes in the eastern Montgomery area in the future regarding pressures in the system, that will allow that to be adjusted to continue to provide the full pressure.
and this is going to the school capital fund, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And whoever puts it in is going to guarantee that that solves the problem, correct?
Whoever puts it in, I'm sure will have to calibrate it so that the state fire marshal says, yep, that's good, it works.
That the pump works.
Yes, the
And
pump
the
works, and
pressure
that the
works.
pressure all the way
Yeah,
through
like,
this.
There should be a guarantee to that,
Oh, yes.
yes.
For sure, the pump will work. We want to make sure that the fire marshal's happy that everything's good with the system within the building.
Is it guaranteed that the pump is the only solution that needs to happen? Or is it the next step to figure out if there's anything else that needs to happen?
It's the next most efficient step to ensure that it's addressed.
The other thing to do is to pull the entire fire suppression system out and redo the whole thing, which is not $100,000.
Not cost effective.
The pump will give the pressure that we need.
The superintendent, it will be addressed and it will be fixed. You want to add it? Come on.
You drove all the way here.
You drove all the way here just to see us tonight, so. And he had a blowout halfway down the road, so I'm glad you, thank gosh you're okay.
I got to know a little bit about Shippensburg, right off 81
Yeah, I
in
know it, yeah.
Pennsylvania. Lovely area, very nice people. Fixed my tire very quickly, so I appreciate that. I apologize for my appearance, first of all. I did kind of come right down. I talked to Mr. Meadows around 11:30 or so. I was in Ocean County, New Jersey. Planning to come back tonight, but not as quickly, and I didn't plan on the blowout either. So thank you, and I apologize for my appearance. We do think that will solve the problem. The issues with the pressure in the fire suppression system at the elementary school. This gives us an opportunity on the top of the hill there by the building to make sure the pressure is what it needs to be. I think it was 145 PSI. Don't quote me on that. I forget what the exact amount was.
Yeah.
But I do believe that, and as far as a guarantee, that would be our expectation. If we're paying the money and y'all putting it for us, the $100,000, that it's going to work, and that would be something I would hold the people to, whoever does the work.
Would the next step be the bid process?
I believe so, although I think we may have somebody under state contract. I'm getting acclimated to the way we do things here in
They were
Virginia.
looking to see if there was a contract I think they could piggyback on or find some, if we can move, my understanding is if they can move faster through some procurement, they're going to try to do that.
That's what we need. We need.
My belief was that it was possible, but I have to check with that. I don't want to speak to that.
And I don't know, I heard that discussion as well, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we appreciate you coming back very quickly. Sorry about your blowout to be
No worries.
here, but just in the time, but we do appreciate you coming here to answer any questions or concerns. And
Looking forward to it. My mom didn't raise any victims. We adjust, we adapt, we overcome. That's what we're doing.
excellent, very good.
I also appreciate, I want to say Supervisor King has been very helpful and in this whole process, been nothing more than supportive. I'm disappointed we went back and forth and it got pulled and put back on, and I apologize for that. That won't happen again on our end.
We appreciate the clarification with the communication. We appreciate that as well.
100%.
Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a
Just
suggestion.
one thing, if, when we had our meeting, our last meeting with the school, the gentleman they hired said, we asked him about turnaround time, and it said probably anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Is that correct? But maybe if they can go through the
Procurement.
state way, they could.
Yep,
a
got to
little
get all the
quicker.
boxes checked.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate you sitting in on some of them meetings.
100%.
Supervisor,
think-
Angie, I'm sorry, Ms. Hill?
Since the board has expressed a desire to appropriate up to $100,000, we technically can't appropriate up to a limit. You could approve this for tonight, approve the support of it pending the appropriation, and then when the actual bids come in, we could bring the appropriation back to you if you would prefer
Okay,
that.
instead
What-
of doing the 100,000.
What happens if we do 100,000 and don't spend 100,000?
If we go ahead. We've been discussing.
If you appropriate 100,000, then it's in their account and it doesn't come back
We would have to
until
take
the end of
action.
the year if it's left over.
Or you could take action to take the balance back from the school capital
Yeah.
fund.
So if the intent is to pay that bill or whatever it comes up to 100, then it makes sense to say, yeah, we'll do that, approve it, subject to appropriation, which is just a legal thing. And then when the bill comes or when you know the exact amount, then the board can take that appropriation action.
Can or must?
Can. But you're saying tonight you're going
I
to,
was going to say.
but that's
if it
always
comes
subject to appropriation.
tonight, 'cause, yeah.
You're committing.
Okay, I would hate to, what if something happened and in 2 months we say, never mind, we don't want to give you that 100,000. I don't want to create an avenue where we could take it back.
Right.
If you want to appropriate it tonight, since it's close to the end of the fiscal year, we could just roll the balance over if they don't spend it all for the project. Does that make sense? We could not roll the balance. I think I actually said the wrong thing. We could let the balance lapse back to the general fund.
I would prefer to go ahead and appropriate the amount to give the schools the ability to move forward without any questions. And then, knowing that the accounting for it would come back to us, we would know how much was spent on it, and that's a future discussion. I can't imagine why we would be splitting hairs over a small amount of maybe residual.
But I like the idea of the lapse, that concept. What would we put in the resolution?
It would be the same.
Yeah, by law it lapses.
Oh, okay, great.
Any further comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, all right, reports. County Attorney.
No report.
All right, County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 items this evening. Just a reminder that our budget public hearing is this week, this Thursday, 6 o'clock, right here in this room. We will be available for the public if they have any comments on the budget or the tax rate, or both. That it begins at 6. Also, I wanted to ask the board, after the public hearing on Thursday. The next meeting scheduled is our regular board meeting on Monday, April 24th. And if we follow our schedule, we're hopeful that you'll approve the budget that evening. Is there any desire of the board to have a budget work session next Monday, the 17th, to address any questions or concerns that may come up in the public hearing? And also, if the board wants an opportunity for a more in-depth discussion about the budget prior to the meeting on the 24th. If there's, I mean, that's the board's call if they would like to meet. You know, staff is available Monday, the 17th at 6 o'clock, if that's something the board would like to do.
Because of the discussion at the last board meeting, it's a blur. Was it 2 weeks ago? I can't remember when Mr. Fidzikowski brought up that
Third, it was the third.
Yeah, last Monday.
last Monday. The PSA, oh, in the work session, that's right. I'm trying to
That's all right.
remember.
It is, I understand.
I still would like to know how the budget would be affected if we kept it at revenue neutral and every penny, like 71 cents, 72 cents, how it would be affected, like we discussed last Monday. Can we have that discussion Thursday after the public hearing instead of coming again on Monday?
True. I'll say traditionally, the board has not done that. They've just received public comment that evening, and then the thought had always been, traditionally it had been you just receive any public comment that evening, then you consider that over the weekend and up until the time you next meet. That's totally up to the board. If you want to have a longer meeting to address Supervisor Bone, your comments there, what staff is going to be prepared to have available for you whenever we do have that extended discussion is I call it a menu of here are items and their associated costs. You know, in essence, if the board wants to go from 73 cents to 72 cents, that means you've got to reduce the budget by about $1.2 million. If you go from 73 to 71, you've got to reduce it by $2.4 million. If you go from 73 to 70, you've got to reduce it by $3.6 million. So you'll have items of priority in terms of what those costs are, and then it's really the board's discussion.
Could we have that information Thursday so that we can also think about it?
You don't.
We don't know.
I would prefer if we
Yeah.
could give it to you Monday. I feel like it'll be more concise and
Okay.
we'll feel more comfortable with it if we can give it to you Monday.
I'd like Monday.
I'm not available on Monday.
I just think when we're dealing with taxpayers' money, we need to have all the meetings we can.
Well, I feel bad that I'm not available,
We'll
but I'm
call
not
you.
available.
We'll
I
call
will be
you.
out of town.
I can try to get that ready for Thursday if it's the board's prerogative to do that.
No. I'm not going to be available to call in either, though. So,
But you'll have the information before we have to vote
Yeah.
on the, so.
I think it's important to know what's going to happen because I think I've said this in the past, having been here a long time, when County Administrator Mr. Meadows and staff have presented a budget, it's always been a fiscally responsible budget. And so if we're going to look at cutting what's been presented, I think we've put a lot of things in there that we're supporting, such as EMS and salary increases. And then, of course, the schools is a big question, SRRs. So we've put stuff in there. So it's going to be challenging to look at how you're going to take things out. So I'd like to know that part of it. The other part I think that we haven't sort of looked at is how much of a tax increase do each of those pennies represent in a home per, like, let's look at it like overall. How much more money does that equal for a homeowner? And we've done that in the past, but I haven't seen that yet. I think that would be important information, not just for us, but for our citizens to know.
We can
You
certainly
know.
pull that together, yes, ma'am.
And so, but I hate that Supervisor DeMont's wouldn't be able to participate.
I'm not happy
But you
about
would have
that.
but you would have the information like before we voted, right? Is that okay?
No, but it is what it is. I mean, obviously, I would rather be here because I think I would like to participate in the discussion, but I have a conference, so I just can't.
What if we couldn't meet that Monday before?
Can we
and
do
then
it
the
a different day?
I'll be back on Thursday, the
And
20th, the 21st.
On the 24th, if we, because that'd be a long night, does it have to be the 24th? Could we do a special meeting if needed?
On the 21st or the Friday, the 22nd?
I'll make this suggestion
I'm
as
off
we're,
by
as we're looking
So
at
you're off a day.
calendars.
That's Friday, the
All
21st.
that, we can, let me just say this, we can have a budget work session with the board anytime the board wants to have a budget work session, if it's next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or if it's that Monday, the 24th, if you wanted to have a work session at 6 o'clock before the board meeting at 7:15. I mean, we just want to make sure you have ample opportunity, to hear from the public on Thursday. That's what the public hearings are for, to see if there's comment there. And then to have opportunity to ask any questions and what ifs prior to the vote on the 24th. The challenge, if we don't vote on the 24th, and Angie, please help me with this, is we have to get the information to the commissioner's office to issue the tax tickets, which then turn around and are due on June the 5th. And so,
We try to give them 2 working weeks to do that, to go through the commissioner's office and the treasurer's office and get mailed. But if it has to be a little later, it just makes the turnaround time for citizens tight to pay their tax bills by June the 5th if they go out later. Sometimes the process goes more quickly to turn them around.
If it works best for 6 people to have the meeting on a Monday night, I'll just listen to it when I'm back in town. I try to schedule my calendar around it. Obviously, this is coming up.
yes, it is.
Yeah. So
But when would you be back on Thursday? Would it be late?
probably,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wonder if we could do it that day.
And Friday's no good.
no, I could do Friday if we wanted to meet on a Friday night. But
6 o'clock, Friday, the 21st.
I'd rather not do that night.
Oh, that's gonna be.
How about Friday afternoon at like 3?
can we have a work session on the
Some of
24th
us work
or
for
a
a living.
meeting on the 17th?
That's,
I think those are the 2 most reasonable options.
Say that again.
A work session on the 24th or a meeting on the 17th.
What would you prefer?
Whatever the majority
What?
chooses.
what does the majority of the board, work session at
I'd like
6
the
o'clock on the
17th
24th?
personally, so it gives us some time to ask questions. Otherwise, we get the information and have to process it and then vote same night within an hour.
I'm good with either one.
I'm good either one.
I'm good either one.
Me too. I just think we ought to have one. And my concern about the 24th is if you wait till then and and you definitely need the information before the meeting, number one. Number two, you're going to discuss it, you're going to have a regular board meeting, and you're going to be voting on everything together. Does the agenda for the 24th, do we know if it's a long meeting or?
We have an awards, we have EMS awards.
Well, and if we did the work session, we would
We'd
just
miss
miss
it.
it. Yeah, we would, because we do have a conflict already prior to the meeting on the 24th, but.
What if we had the information sent to us, emailed to us? on the 17th, and we get to look at it and then have the work session on the 24th before the regular meeting.
Can we?
Staff's
can
good
we
with
just have a
whatever.
Quick meeting on the 17th, so that we can ask questions about.
My
and have some
concern,
discussion.
this is just from years of experience. My thought is that there's going to be quite a bit of discussion about the options, and I do agree, I suggested that, but I do agree if you try to do a work session on the 24th, you're trying to push a lot of decisions all into one night. That's,
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm good with either one, so.
excuse me,
So 17th at 6 p.m. or 7? Or,
whatever the board, my suggestion was 6, just so
that's fine.
not here all night, but if,
Good.
whatever works for
6.
the group,
6 is good.
Consensus?
we'll get a notice out.
All right. The 17th at 6 p.m. work session.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
thank
all
you.
I have tonight. Thank you.
All right, we'll start off with Supervisor DeMontz,
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Bone,
No report, thank you.
Supervisor Shepherd,
No report.
Supervisor Fidzikowski.
I don't necessarily have a report, but I do want to thank the citizens group that was formed in light of the solar project. They banded together fairly quickly, and the research they did was very impressive. And I know I've sent you all an email on this before, that this wasn't your typical not in my backyard kind of project. But they did put a lot of hard work in it, and so many got involved. They involved a lot of other professionals, which was very smart of them. I was thoroughly impressed, and that's what we like to see from citizens in getting involved with governmental decisions. That's what we need. So thank you all very much. To the next crisis.
Opportunity, not crisis.
Opportunities, that's right.
Challenge.
Supervisor King,
Don't have no report.
Vice Chair Biggs.
I do not have a report tonight.
Very good.
I know.
Just, just a few things. First of all, I want to say congratulations. Make sure everybody goes and check out the new Office of Elections on Franklin Street with a registrar's office that is up there, new location at 1546 North Franklin Street, Christiansburg. And had an opportunity to serve with the citizens group of Montgomery County Sheriff's Office lunch to our 911 dispatchers today in recognition of Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And I think Mr. Meadows will be helping celebrate later on this week. With
Bright
them
and
as
early
well.
Friday
Bright
morning.
early. And then we had Mikey King came forward and thanked us for the letter of commendation. I'd like the opportunity to read this. This was at the 50th anniversary for the volunteer firemen and ladies auxiliary installation of their officers and awards in Reiner this past weekend. And I'm just going to read the letter of commendation. The Montgomery County Board of Supervisors hereby commends Reiner volunteer firefighter Mikey King for his life-saving actions on March 13, 2023. At 8 a.m. on March 13, 2023, crews responded to a house fire on 5 Points Road located in Reiner, Virginia. Volunteer firefighter Mikey King was the first on the scene. Upon arrival, he found heavy smoke and one person trapped inside the structure. Another person had already exited the burning building before emergency crews arrived. Without hesitation, Mikey immediately entered the burning structure to rescue the person trapped. Reiner Volunteer Fire Department, Christiansburg Volunteer Fire Department, Blacksburg Volunteer Fire Department, Reiner Volunteer Rescue Squad, and Montgomery County Fire and EMS Medic 132 all responded to the scene. The fire was extinguished, and those who were in the building at the time of the fire are expected to recover. We, the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors, wish to thank Mikey King for his quick, decisive actions in response to a dangerous incident that resulted in saving a citizen's life. The Montgomery County Board of Supervisors will forever take pride in the fact that so many individuals volunteer for their community as firefighters. We would not be able to provide the high level of services to our citizens and valued sense of community safety and security without the many essential individuals who choose to give back to their community as fire and EMS volunteers. These volunteers have significant and far-reaching impact by choosing to spend their time making a difference in Montgomery County. Now, volunteer Mikey King has highlighted yet another reason for the importance of having fire and rescue volunteers. His training and dedication to his profession has provided a very happy and priceless ending to what would have otherwise been a tragedy that no one should have to face. It is with great honor that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia, hereby recognizes Roanoke Fire Department volunteer Mikey King with the highest regard and gratitude for his heroic actions that led to saving a person's life. And that is, for those of you that probably already know, that is Supervisor King's son. So we congratulate him and thank the entire Roanoke Volunteer Fire Department and all of our volunteers and career staff for all that they do to serve and to keep us safe. With that, we'll stand adjourned. You're good.